In most of the world, when a government wants to criminalize a group of people, it has to reach for the language of security or order or public health. In Uganda, the drafters could reach for something older and simpler. They had a verse. If a man lies with a man as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. The Anti-Homosexuality Act did not have to invent its penalty. It only had to copy one down. This is the modern sequel to every chapter in this series that began with a single sentence of scripture and ended in a body. The witch trials had Exodus. The Inquisition had its heresy. Uganda has Leviticus, and a law, passed twice in our own decade, that wrote the verse's sentence into the criminal code of a nation. The story Ugandan officials prefer is that this is an authentically African defense of traditional values against Western decadence. The documented timeline runs in the opposite direction. In March of 2009, 3 American evangelicals, Scott Lively, Caleb Lee Brundage, and Don Schmierer, traveled to Kampala for a conference on the threat of, in their words, the gay agenda. Lively had co-written a book that blamed the Nazis on homosexuals. Later that same year, a Ugandan member of parliament, David Bahati, introduced the Anti-Homosexuality Bill, soon nicknamed around the world the Kill the Gays Bill, because in its original form, it prescribed the death penalty for so-called aggravated homosexuality. The fire was not purely homegrown. A good deal of the fuel and much of the theology was carried in. What that climate produces is not abstract. In October of 2010, a Ugandan tabloid published the photographs, the names, and the addresses of people it identified as gay under a yellow banner that read, "Hang them." One of the people whose face was on those pages was David Kato, a teacher and one of Uganda's first openly gay activists. He had sued the paper and won. Weeks after that victory, in January of 2011, he was beaten to death in his home. The authorities called it a robbery. The people who knew the climate he had been living in knew what the climate had done. The bill became a recurring fixture of Ugandan politics. In 2014, a version passed. The death penalty swapped for life imprisonment, and President Museveni signed it. Months later, the court struck it down on a technicality. It came back. In 2023, Uganda enacted a new, harsher act, once again carrying the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality. Museveni signed it. The World Bank suspended new loans to the country. We will be precise about one thing because the series demands it. As of this telling, no one is known to have been executed under these laws, and parts of them have been challenged in court. The harm is not a state execution count. The harm is a legal climate of terror. Arrests, blackmail, beatings, exile, given the force of law and the blessing of the pulpit. And the link between American religious activism and the Ugandan law is not a conspiracy theory. It was argued in an American courtroom. A Ugandan rights group sued Scott Lively in U.S. federal court. In 2017, the court dismissed the case on jurisdictional grounds. The conduct had happened abroad. But the judge went out of his way to write that the dismissal was no vindication, finding that Lively had aided and abetted a vicious and frightening campaign of repression. The case failed on where, not on whether. Honesty cuts both ways here, as always. Homophobia in Uganda is not simply an American import. It has its own deep roots. its own political utility, Museveni has wielded it to rally support and to paint his critics as agents of a decadent West. And, in a bitter irony, the very sodomy laws the British Empire left behind. To tell this as white American evangelicals made Africans hate gay people would be both false and condescending. But that does not erase the documented thread. American evangelists traveled to Uganda, supplied the apocalyptic framing of a gay agenda coming to destroy the family, and stood near the front of the room as a law was drafted to match. They exported the fire, theologized it, and, when it caught, mostly declined to put it out. The verse was always there. They taught a generation to read it as a death warrant. So here is the receipt. What happened? Uganda criminalized homosexuality with escalating severity, passing laws in 2014 and 2023 that carry the death penalty drawn straight from Leviticus, after American evangelicals helped ignite the panic. The spin. This is Africa defending its own values, and no one has actually been executed. The rebuttal. The law copies its sentence from Scripture. The panic was demonstrably fanned from abroad, and no executions yet is not exoneration of a statute that prescribes them. And that has already produced arrests, violence, exile, and at least one murder in its climate. There has been no reckoning. Unlike the Magdalene laundries or the Rwandan churches, where eventually a state or a pope said the word sorry, this story has no apology because it is not over. The 2023 Act stands. The pulpits that blessed it have not recanted. The Americans who lit the match have mostly moved on to the next country. Every other chapter in this series is, in some sense, history. A thing done, regretted, apologized for. This one is a thing being done. The verse that the 17th century used to burn witches and the 21st is using to hunt gay men is the same verse in the same book, interpreted the same literal way. The fire is not a relic, it is an export. And somewhere tonight, in a country that was taught to read one sentence as a sentence, it is still being lit.